Now we're getting ready to be able to create our RAID device. So we've got the two partitions, so we're ready now to create the RAID device. But before we rush ahead, why don't we take a look at the proc.mdstat file? This would then show us any RAID device that we have. And of course, it's not going to exist at this stage. To build the RAID device, we're going to create a level 1 RAID array or mirror, and we can see that we can do this with or without a spare device, so a hot spare. So first of all, without the hot spare, we use then the mdadm command and ---- create. Here we've got the long versions of the command, but we could also have just single character versions of these commands, but it becomes self-documenting if we use the longhand version. So then -verbose, and we're creating the device /dev/md0. So that's going to be the device that we later go forward and format and mount. We're using then ---- level = mirror, and then we're including two devices in this mirror. We specify that they are device SDB1 and SDC1, so we can see then the command line to create this. But we say if we wanted to, we could include a hot spare, and in which case we'd have the extra option ---- spare devices = 1, and then the value of /SDD1, or whatever your spare device was. The idea of having a spare device is that then we can keep our fault tolerance running even if we have a failed device. And again, when we go through now and check the mdstat file, we should now be able to see that we have a RAID device. And additionally, if we go ahead and look at the lsmod command, the lsmod command will show us our loaded kernel modules. And if we search the output for RAID, we should be able to see the RAID drivers being loaded. So it's about time, I think, that we implement some of this. So let's take a trip down to our CentOS console and see this in place. So we can clear the screen with Control-L and just set up a little bit of real estate. If I go through and take a look at /proc/mdstat, you can see that the file exists because I was able to use tab completion, but as we go through, we don't have any personality. I don't have any personality? Who's suggesting that? And then looking at the unused devices, well, yes, we don't have any RAID devices ready to set up. So we can then go through an mdadm, so our multi-disk administration tool, and then ---- create, ---- just so we can see the output on the screen. And we're going to create the device /md0. We specify the level that we want to use, and we're going to use the word mirror. We can continue on the one line, or we can just use the / to extend the command onto multiple lines. Perhaps for readability, I'll keep with the slides and just put our line extension. So we can see then we get our secondary prompt, and ---- RAID devices, and that's going to equal 2, and then we specify /dev/SDB1 and /dev/SDC1. And again, go through and double check that everything seems to be correct before hitting the big red enter key. And then we can see that this array has metadata at the start that may not be suitable for a boot device. So it's just if you plan, so yeah, it's just giving us a little bit of warning here. And then to say if we want to use this for the boot directory, then we can use an additional switch. So we can say, yes, we want to continue. So we're using the 1.2 metadata, and we can see the system has also gone and started the MD0 device, and more on starting and stopping devices a little bit later. But if we go back and repeat that cat command, and we should know by now that we can use the exclamation mark to rerun a previous command. So if I now go through and hit enter, we're looking then at the proc mdstat, and we can see then that we're using RAID level 1, which is the same as the mirror. We can then go through and see the devices that are included and the order in which, so we're really seeing disk 0 of the array and disk 1 of the array. We can clear out the screen, and if we go through and look at ls mod, so this will list all of my kernel modules that are loaded. Again, if I clear the screen and repeat the command, but this time sending it to grep, so I can search, and we can search then for RAID, and we can see then that we've got the RAID 1 driver loaded. So at this stage then we've got our RAID device, and if we wanted to create a file system on this, of course we would go forward and format it. But so we have to learn a little bit more about starting and stopping these RAID devices and writing the configuration through to the configuration file. So let's jump back into the slide so we can look a little bit more detail on this.